I woke up in a king-sized bed, sheets tangled around me, the remnants of last night's party scattered across the floor. Empty bottles, clothes tossed carelessly. It was a typical morning. I didn't even remember his name, the guy from last night, still asleep beside me. I pushed his arm off me and slid out of bed. My head pounded, and the stale smell of alcohol hung in the air. I wasn't exactly proud of my life, but I wasn't ashamed either. Living between my parents' mansions gave me everything I needed: money, freedom, and absolutely no one breathing down my neck. Dad was too busy with his business, and Mom, well, she cared more about her new boyfriend than her own son. My phone buzzed. It was David, as usual. David, yo, party at mine tonight, don't be late. Me, you know I'm never late for a party. David, good. Bring that chaos with you. I chuckled, tossing the phone on the bed. Another night, another party, another forgettable face. It's just how things went. I spent most of the day half awake, drifting in and out of sleep, while the guy from last night finally slipped out without a word. Good, less awkward that way. By the time evening rolled around, I was back to normal. A shower, a few texts from some randoms, and I was ready to go. Parties were my routine, just another night where I didn't have to think about anything. At David's place, the music hit me first. Loud, pulsing beats that seemed to vibrate through my chest. His house was packed already, and I could spot familiar faces, people I'd hooked up with, people I probably would soon. I wasn't even inside when David appeared, a drink in hand, grinning like the devil. David, there he is. Thought you might have crashed for crud this time. Me, you know me, man? I don't crash. I burn out. David, well, let's make sure it's a good one. Party's in full swing. I grabbed the drink he handed me, downing half of it as we pushed through the crowd. Music. Drinks. Bodies moving together, some too close, others barely aware of each other. It was perfect. My kind of chaos. You see that guy over there? David nudged me, pointing across the room. Me, who? The one sitting alone over by the bar. That's Kevin. He's new. Barely talks, but man, he's got that lost puppy look. You know what that means. I glanced over. Sure enough, there he was. Clean cut, neat, looked way out of place. Some kid sitting by himself with a drink, too innocent for this scene. He wasn't my usual type, but something about him made me smirk. Maybe it was the way he didn't belong, or maybe it was just the way he didn't care. Me, I'll make him feel welcome. David just laughed and slapped me on the back as I made my way over. The night was just getting started. The closer I got, the more out of place Kevin looked. He was sipping his drink, something with a tiny umbrella, totally oblivious to the noise and people around him. I leaned against the bar next to him, flashing a grin. Me, you know, you're sitting here like you're waiting for something to happen. He glanced up, surprised, then quickly looked down at his drink. Shy. Interesting. Kevin, I'm just here with some friends. His voice was quiet, like he was afraid someone might hear. I could barely make out what he said over the music. I laughed, not in a mocking way, but just because he was so out of sync with the chaos around us. Me, yeah? Looks like they ditched you. I waved to the bartender. Get this guy something better than that umbrella nonsense. He watched as the bartender poured him a stronger drink, but he didn't say anything. Maybe he was nervous, or maybe just not used to this scene. Either way, I wasn't going to let him slip away that easily. Me, so what's your deal, man? You don't look like the type to hit a party like this. Kevin, I'm not really. I got dragged here. He paused, then glanced up at me, a bit of a smile creeping in. It's not really my scene. That smile. I wasn't sure why, but it hooked me. I leaned in a little, closer than I needed to. Me, maybe you're in the wrong scene, or maybe you just haven't figured out how to have fun yet. He blushed. Full-on blush. I hadn't seen that in a while. I could see the hesitation in his eyes, but there was something else too: curiosity. That was my cue. Me, wanna dance? You can't just sit here all night. He looked at me like I'd just asked him to jump off a cliff, but after a second, he nodded, setting his drink down. I grabbed his hand before he could change his mind and pulled him toward the crowd. His grip was a little unsure, but I didn't mind. I'd handle that. The music was loud, the lights flashing, bodies moving in every direction. I didn't let go of his hand, guiding him through the sea of people. He was stiff at first, like he wasn't sure what to do, but I kept close, moving in sync with the beat, and eventually I felt him relax, his movements awkward but honest. Me, see, not so bad, right? He didn't answer, just smiled, looking at me in a way that made me feel like I was the only person in the room. That's when I realized this was going to be a fun night. We kept dancing, bodies pressed closer as the music thumped around us. Kevin loosened up, awkward at first, but then he found the rhythm. The way he moved, a little unsure but trusting, told me everything I needed to know. And I liked it. Me, you're getting the hang of this. I leaned in, my mouth close to his ear, loud enough for him to hear but soft enough to keep it between us. He turned to look at me, face flushed, not just from the heat of the club but something more. I could see it, he was hooked. Then, without thinking too much, I kissed him. It was quick, just enough to test the waters, but he didn't pull back. Instead, he kissed me back, hesitant at first, but then he matched my pace, like he'd been waiting for this all night. "Let's get out of here," I said, not even giving him time to answer as I grabbed his hand again, pulling him through the crowd toward the back, where the pack word, he didn't resist. In fact, he followed me so easily it was clear this was exactly where he wanted to be. The door clicked shut behind us, the heavy bass of the music muffled but still present, vibrating through the walls. The air in the room was cooler, quieter, but the tension was anything but. "Kevin, I've never done this before." He said it in a way that wasn't scared, just honest. His eyes met mine, searching for, I don't know what, maybe reassurance, maybe a sign that this was okay. "Me, you'll be fine. Just follow my lead." I didn't waste any more time. My hands were on him, pulling him close, my mouth finding his again. This kiss was different, deeper, more intense. I could feel him melting into it, his breath quickening as his hands found their way to my waist. I could tell he was nervous. But he didn't stop. If anything, he wanted more. We undressed each other in a rush of hands and heat, barely breaking the kiss. His skin was warm against mine, soft but trembling with the kind of excitement that only comes from doing something new. I pushed him back onto the sofa, straddling him as we fell into the cushions. His fingers dug into my hips, unsure but desperate. It wasn't long before we were both lost in it. The rhythm, the touch, the way he responded to every move I made, it was addicting. For a moment, everything else disappeared. It was just us, locked in this wild, reckless moment. And it was one of the best I'd had in a while. The morning after, I woke up to the usual post-party mess, clothes scattered, empty bottles, the faint smell of last night's drinks. But this time, there was something different. Kevin was still here, lying beside me, his arm draped over my chest like he belonged there. I stared at the ceiling, replaying the night. It had been good, better than I expected, but I never intended for it to go beyond that. Slowly, I shifted out from under his arm and slid out of bed. I grabbed my clothes from the floor, pulling on my jeans as quietly as possible. Kevin stirred but didn't wake up. I figured I'd just leave a note or something, make it clear it was fun but done. Then my phone buzzed on the dresser loud. Kevin's eyes fluttered open, and before I could say anything, he was sitting up, smiling at me like he had just woken up in some romantic fantasy. "Kevin, morning." His voice was soft, almost shy. He ran a hand through his messy hair, trying to make sense of where he was. And he wasn't used to this, that much was obvious. "Me, yeah, morning." I kept it casual, grabbing my shirt and throwing it on. "You sleep okay?" "Kevin, better than I expected," he said, still smiling as if last night meant something more to him than it ever could to me. "So, what now?" That question hung in the air. It was a loaded one, and I knew where it was going. I flashed him a quick smile, brushing it off. "Me, I've got some things to do today. Maybe catch up later." His smile faltered for a second, but he quickly recovered. "Kevin, yeah, sure, I'd like that." He sounded hopeful, and I could feel it in the way he looked at me, like he expected this to be something. I wasn't sure how to handle it. Kevin wasn't like the usual hookups, he was different, and for some reason, that made me feel something. I wasn't sure what yet. "Me cool, I'll hit you up." I said it, but deep down I wasn't planning on it. It was easier to let this slide into the past, another night lost in the blur. But as I left the room, I caught one last look at him sitting there with that same hopeful expression, and I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe, just maybe, I was screwing this up. The next few days flew by in a blur of parties, drinks, and more of the usual chaos. Kevin texted a couple of times, nothing heavy, just casual check-ins, asking if I wanted to hang out. I ignored most of them. It wasn't personal, it's just how I dealt with things. But the longer I stayed away, well, the more he popped into my head, which was annoying. I wasn't used to thinking about someone once they were out of my bed. I was at another party, leaning against the bar, drink in hand, scanning the room for familiar faces. Same scene, different night. But then, out of nowhere, I saw him, Kevin. He was sitting at the edge of the party again, just like the first time, nursing another ridiculous umbrella drink. What was he doing here? He didn't seem like the type to keep showing up at these things, and yet there he was, glancing around looking for me. The moment he spotted me, his face lit up like he'd been waiting for me all night. "Kevin, hey. Didn't think I'd see you here." He walked up to me, smile wide, a bit of excitement in his voice like we were picking up right where we left off. "Me, yeah, well, here I am," I said, keeping it cool, but something felt off. His energy was different. He seemed too happy to see me, too eager. This wasn't supposed to be a thing. He stood there for a second, waiting like he expected me to say something more. But I didn't. Instead, I took a long sip of my drink. "Kevin, I've been thinking about the other night." There it was. That feeling again, the one that told me this was going somewhere I wasn't ready for. I set my glass down and forced a laugh. "Me, it was fun, Kevin, but his face fell just a little, but he caught himself quickly. He wasn't going to let this drop easily. "You don't feel anything, do you?" The question hit me like a brick. My instinct was to brush it off, throw out some smooth line, but the look on his face stopped me. He actually cared. And for some reason, that messed with me. I wasn't used to this, someone giving a damn. "Me, look, Kev, you're a good guy. But I'm not. This isn't what I do." That should have been the end of it. Usually it was enough to get someone to back off. But Kevin wasn't backing off. He took a step closer, eyes locked on mine. "Kevin, what if I want more than just fun?" There it was. The honesty I wasn't ready for, and the last thing I wanted to deal with. I didn't sign up for this. I came here for another night of no strings attached, not whatever this was. Me, I don't do relationships, Kev. The silence that followed was brutal. I watched him process it, his shoulders slumping just a bit, but he didn't look away. He was still standing there, still trying to figure me out. Kevin, maybe you should. His words hung in the air as he turned and walked off, disappearing into the crowd before I could respond. I stood there, drink in hand, the music pounding around me, but all I could think about was the way he looked at me before he left. For the first time in a long time, I felt like I had screwed something up, and it didn't sit right. The next morning, I was still thinking about Kevin. His words replayed in my head like a loop I couldn't turn off. Maybe you should. That line hit harder than I expected, and it pissed me off. Who was he to tell me what I should do? I didn't need that drama in my life. I lived simple, no strings, no commitment. I wasn't about to let some random guy screw that up. I grabbed my phone, scrolling through the usual messages, party invites, hookups, people wanting a piece of me. Kevin's texts were still sitting there, unread. I thought about deleting them, but something stopped me. Instead, I threw my phone on the couch and headed out. A good party would clear my head. By the time I got to the club, David was already waiting, drink in hand, grinning like always. David, there he is. What's up, man? You've been MIA. I shrugged, forcing a smile. Me busy, you know how it is. We grabbed drinks, slipping into the usual routine, talking trash, hitting the dance floor, finding people to flirt with. The music was loud enough to drown out any thoughts of Kevin, or at least it should have been, but every time I glanced around the room, I half expected to see him. It was like I couldn't shake him, no matter how hard I tried. Another drink, another round of shots with David, but the night felt off. The usual thrill wasn't there. The girls, the guys, it all felt hollow. Even David noticed. David, you good, man? You're quieter than usual. That's not like you. I waved him off, taking another sip. Me just tired. Long week. He didn't buy it, but he let it slide. That's the thing about David, he knew when to push and when to back off. The rest of the night dragged, and I found myself more focused on the empty feeling creeping in than the party around me. I ended up leaving earlier than usual, which was never a good sign. Back at my place, I crashed on the couch, flipping through my phone. I hadn't talked to Kevin since that night, and it was starting to bug me more than I wanted to admit. He hadn't texted again, hadn't tried to reach out. That was supposed to be a good thing, right? He got the message, finally backed off. So why did it feel like I was the one avoiding him? Me, screw this. I tossed my phone aside and grabbed a bottle of whiskey. I poured a glass, downing it in one go. The burn in my throat was better than thinking. I needed to get Kevin out of my head, forget the whole thing happened. But the more I tried to push him out, the more he stuck. And that's when it hit me. I wasn't avoiding Kevin. I was avoiding whatever this thing was that had me twisted up inside, and that was way more dangerous. A few days passed, and I kept myself busy, jumping from party to party, trying to drown out that nagging voice in my head. But Kevin's absence only made it worse. No texts, no messages, nothing. It wasn't like I wanted to hear from him, at least. That's what I kept telling myself. Still, something didn't sit right, and it was starting to get under my skin. That night, I ended up at another party. I wasn't in the mood, but it felt better than sitting at home, overthinking. The music was loud, the drinks flowing, but none of it felt right. I was leaning against the bar when, out of nowhere, there he was, Kevin, standing just a few feet away, talking to someone I didn't recognize. For a second, I thought about turning around, pretending I hadn't seen him, but it was too late. He spotted me, and just like that, he was walking over. His expression wasn't as open as last time, though. He looked different, more guarded, and that pissed me off. I wasn't sure why, but it did. Kevin Hay, his voice was calm, but there was something behind it. He wasn't the shy, nervous guy from before. He was here for something else. Me, hey, I kept it cool, acting like I hadn't been thinking about him for days. I wasn't about to show my hand. He didn't waste any time. Kevin, you've been avoiding me. I felt my jaw tighten. He came right at me, no hesitation, no pretending. The guy was serious. Me, I've been busy. Kevin, bullshit. That caught me off guard. Kevin had always been soft-spoken, careful with his words. This wasn't the same guy I'd left in bed a week ago. Me, what do you want? Kevin, I snapped, my patience wearing thin. He didn't flinch. He just stared right at me like he was trying to read every thought running through my head. Kevin, I want to know why you're pushing me away. There it was. The question I didn't want to answer. The question I'd been running from. I downed my drink, letting the burn distract me for a second before responding. Me, because that's what I do. We had a good time, Kev, but that's all it was. It's not going to be anything else. He didn't even blink. Kevin, maybe that's what you want to believe. But I don't think that's true. That hit me. He was calling me out in a way no one ever had. People didn't challenge me like this. They just took what I gave and moved on. But Kevin wasn't moving on. Me, you don't know me, Kevin? Kevin, maybe not. But I know when someone's scared. The word scared hung in the air between us, thick and heavy. I felt my fists clench. Scared? Of what? I wasn't scared. I wasn't anything. I had control over my life, my choices, but the way he looked at me, it was like he saw right through all the bullshit. Me, you don't get it. I don't do relationships. I don't. Kevin, why not? What's so bad about letting someone in? Or is that the real thing you're scared of? He didn't raise his voice, didn't get angry. He just stood there, steady, waiting for an answer I didn't have. And the worst part, he was right. I knew it, and from the way he kept looking at me, I knew he could see it too. I stepped back, needing space, but the walls of the club felt like they were closing in. Me, this isn't what I want, Kevin. It's not who I am. He shook his head, frustrated but not defeated. Kevin, you don't even know who you are, Peter. That hit harder than I'd expected. I opened my mouth to argue, but nothing came out. Instead, I just stood there, watching him turn and walk away without looking back. I should have felt relieved that he was finally giving up, but all I felt was the weight of what he said hanging over me. And for the first time, I couldn't shake the feeling that maybe he was right. The club felt too loud, too crowded after Kevin walked away. The beat of the music pounded in my chest, but it wasn't fun anymore. I pushed my way through the crowd, needing air, needing to think. I stepped outside, the cool night hitting my face as I leaned against the wall, taking a deep breath. You don't even know who you are, Peter. That line kept cutting through my thoughts, replaying like a bad song stuck on repeat. I lit a cigarette, hoping it would help clear my head, but even the nicotine didn't drown out Kevin's words. He had no right to say that, no right to mess with my head like this. But maybe, just maybe, he wasn't wrong. I kept thinking about how he stood there so damn steady, like he knew me better than I knew myself. I'd spent years perfecting this routine, nights spent in clubs, mornings waking up next to strangers whose names I barely remembered. It was simple, clean. No complications, no emotions. But now I couldn't shake the thought that maybe there was something more, something I'd been avoiding. The phone in my pocket buzzed. For a second I thought it might be Kevin, but it wasn't. Just a message from David, asking where I'd disappeared to. David, you good, man? Where'd you run off to? I stared at the message, not answering right away. The truth was, I didn't know if I was good. The truth was, I didn't even know why I left the club so fast. Kevin had gotten under my skin, and now I was left dealing with the mess. My phone buzzed again, this time from a number I didn't recognize. For a second, I thought about ignoring it, but something made me open it. Text, hey, it's Kevin. I didn't mean to push you earlier. I just wanted you to understand where I'm coming from. I stared at the message, my thumb hovering over the screen. I could leave him on read, block his number, pretend like nothing happened. That's what I'd usually do. Move on, avoid the mess. But something stopped me this time. Maybe it was the way he confronted me, the way he didn't back down when everyone else would have. I started typing a response, stopped, then deleted it. What was I supposed to say? Sorry for being a dick. Or you're right. I'm a mess. I didn't do apologies, and I definitely didn't do feelings. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that Kevin wasn't just another hookup. He was something else. And that scared the hell out of me. I couldn't stay still. I started pacing down the street, trying to shake off the feeling building inside me. Kevin had made me question everything, why I kept people at a distance, why I refused to let anyone in. I didn't like how it felt, this vulnerability creeping in, but at the same time it felt like something I needed to face. My phone buzzed again. This time I didn't hesitate. Me texting, we need to talk. I waited outside the coffee shop, staring down at my phone, wondering if I'd made a mistake. We need to talk, the most basic, overused line. But what else was I supposed to say? I wasn't good at this, talking about feelings, dealing with the fallout of my actions. Kevin still hadn't replied, and I was starting to think he'd decided to let it go. Just when I was about to leave, I saw him, Kevin, walking toward me, hands stuffed into his pockets, head down like he was bracing himself. He stopped when he saw me, then kept walking, his face unreadable. It wasn't the eager, hopeful look from before. He wasn't going to make this easy. He came to a stop a few feet away, watching me, waiting. I took a breath and forced myself to meet his eyes. Me, thanks for coming. He shrugged. Kevin, I didn't come here to argue. There it was again, that calm, steady voice that had been messing with my head for days. I felt the tension build in my chest. This wasn't how I did things. I wasn't used to feeling cornered. Me, look, I'm not good at. This, I gestured between us, feeling stupid for not being able to find the right words. I don't do relationships. It's not who I am. He nodded, but I could tell he wasn't buying it. Kevin, I get that, but you need to understand something, Peter. I'm not here to mess with your life. I'm here because I care. I just want to know if there's even a chance or if I'm wasting my time. There it was, the choice. The moment I'd been trying to avoid. I couldn't just brush him off this time. He deserved an answer, and for once I couldn't hide behind the usual lines. I rubbed the back of my neck, avoiding his gaze. Me, I don't know, Kev. I'm not used to this. People don't stick around with me. I don't let them. It's easier that way. Kevin, maybe it's time you stop doing what's easy. He didn't say it harshly. He wasn't angry, just tired of waiting for me to figure myself out, and I couldn't blame him for that. I had been running for years, running from relationships, from emotions, from anything that wasn't short-term and simple. For the first time, I couldn't run anymore. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to speak before I could back out. I don't know what this is. I don't know what I want. But I know I don't want to lose you. I'm just figuring this out. It felt like pulling teeth getting the words out, but I finally did. Kevin looked at me, his expression softening just a bit. I could see that he didn't expect me to have all the answers, but he wanted something real, something honest. Kevin, that's all I needed to hear. We stood there for a moment, the noise of the city around us fading as we stared at each other. For the first time, I didn't feel like I had to be in control. I didn't have to put on the act. I didn't have to run. He stepped closer, just a small step, and I didn't move away. Miso, what now? Kevin, he smiled just slightly. Now, we take it slow. No pressure, no promises. Just see where this goes. I nodded, feeling a weight lift that I hadn't even realized I was carrying. Maybe for the first time in a long time, I wasn't trying to escape. I wasn't trying to push someone away. I was actually staying